Let me share here just a second. So as mentioned, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask on the chat. Let's see, we can also open up a little bit by the end as well. So let me just go full screen for a second. All right. Great. So today we are here to talk a little bit about the future of AI and how AI is kind of shaping user interface. So that's why pretty much the name of this open class today. And again, it's one of the classes that we currently have at the brand-driven interfaces, that is to navigate the AI-driven future of interfaces. We're going to cover a few different topics here. This is like a condensed version of like the full class that is that inside the brand-driven interfaces, we talk a little bit about what is kind of the future of the frameworks, how we're developing design tools, and also how we're developing those new experiences. But today, instead of covering like the full thing, I want to talk a little bit about the AI itself, of course, but also a little bit of like different types of hardwares and how these hardwares will kind of take shape in the future as well. And we kind of see both together create some sort of relationship. So we're going to talk a little bit about AR, VR, XR, spatial computing as a whole, and how we kind of see like this new technology kind of converging into one specific thing. So about artificial intelligence, we're gonna cover like a few different topics inside this and how it's kind of shaping as the future of the chat and also the intelligence. So I have like four main things here that's kind of covering like this whole idea and how you're gonna see the new updates, things getting smarter. So we have like in how AI is getting more intelligible, able to explain what it knows, how it knows, and what it's doing. This is like kind of a little bit of what we see today between like the reasoning models, like when we ask for something, it starts to kind of trigger some sort of answer, and we see the reasoning, like where it's getting sources, where to get this information from, so things feel clear and also transparent in a way. How is getting more adaptive, so able to meet user expectations in different environments. So we're not only seeing this as a user friendly way, that is now we have access to those tools, so we can like open up a chat and ask about anything, but we're seeing this more integrated with different experiences as well. So almost like a new module that lives within any sort of experience. And again, because AI is one thing that kind of feels white label, that there's no real kind of branding identity built into it, they feel really customizable as well. So we can see like personas, but also how it kind of adapts to our tone of voice by using, for instance, one of those ideas is um, how kind of personalization is working today, like using memory on like ChatGPT to kind of know you a little bit better as well. And also like context aware, so just able to perceive at the same level as human does. Pretty much how it's getting more sassy in a way with you as well. So they evolved to be contextual. And just before I kind of jump into the video, I was just gonna show to you guys like one of the those like white label tools that we like at Working Code, that is the company that I work for. We're developing to sell and kind of expand in different places. This is how we kind of envision artificial intelligence living in e-commerce and how it kind of plays a role as a new contextual and personalized experience for different type of users to buy something. So let me just restart this real quick, just a second. Here we go. So we have like this on the right side that lives with that e-commerce. We can open up, like find new gear, expeditions, and this and more. I'm backpacking to Yosemite for 3 nights. In September, what gear do I need? So instead of looking for something specific, it's based on intent and also on context. So if you're traveling, going to like a hike, or maybe you're going to swim, like going to the beach or something, it can actually digest to you and make like use of this specific context to give you like the best product. So instead of for you like looking for like a pair of shoes or a pair of sneakers or something, just looking for the name, it actually starts to sell stuff for you based into like intuitive way of shopping. So just like one of the examples of how artificial intelligence is getting adaptive in the context of e-commerce and how this can kind of again just expand in a way. Just gonna run once more so we can like take a look better at the details. And again, like one specific like scenario that we can see today that is, I think like um Google Maps also is doing this not only on Amazon, but there's like summary for reviews. Like people usually say this product is X, Y, and Z. This technically is just like a summary, like taking a look at every single like the all the content that lives within all the reviews and start to create like the something like more relevant for you. So you can start asking those things as well, like why these sneakers, what is good, what is like bad on it, and again, just based into context. So again, just to kind of shape this idea that the AI isn't only about chat boxes, that what we see today as a way to just send messages, but something that is getting integrated for us designers, to take a look at for like every new product we're building today and how we can see this, new adaptive way of triggering those moments inside new experiences. And like this is like screenshots that I have for like from 2 years ago. Because another little issue that we had in the past when designing AI tools was what people should type. What is like the right prompt to ask to get the best answer, to get the best result? Because people don't know how to do it because it's like a new model, it's like a new paradigm for people to kind of interact with. But now we don't really have those, those little things here and there to kind of give you like, oh, try to type this or that because people are getting used to this new mental model. So now things are getting even more cleaner as a way to start those conversations. But like I have like here just like a few different examples to show how this could adapt and like evolve in different ways. So it's not only like an open box that is send a message. I don't have like the screenshot of like X here, but we already see like this inside X, like how Grok behaves when people are interacting with like different like publications inside X and they are kind of tagging Grok to answer. It's like another way to see AI in an adaptive environment to kind of use the capabilities instead of just being like a chat box, right? This is like a now it's like a dead app. It's like not like live anymore, but this is like a really well built app made for like recipes that was really nice. That is called like Creme. And the whole idea was to people to kind of interact with like new recipes. It has like this really nice curation with like um award-winning like chefs that will like show their recipes. You can have like it's almost like TikTok look and feel to kind of have like an easy way to digest the recipe as well. So you'll have like step by step and everything. But not only they would provide like a really good experience overall, like when you're talking about UI and UX, but also they added like this new feature in like a new update that was a sous chef. And this sous chef is nothing more like than an AI feature that lives inside the app that helps you out, like answering questions related to the recipe. Like for instance, this moist chocolate cake here, and you can pretty much like ask Soul's AI, like, can I use this ingredient instead of this one, or you're gonna mess up like the recipe. And then inside the post itself, it would answer you to kind of give more like context. And yes, you can do it. You can like swap them white sugar for them around. It's all right. Nothing gonna like happen. And again, good AI is also seamless. So it's not only about like seeing those input fields where you can write anything you want, but we as people that are always kind of consuming stuff, consuming content, and kind of doom scrolling every single day, like not only on YouTube, but also Reels and TikTok. This is all like everything is kind of AI, is artificial intelligence. It's just like a simple math that happens in the end of the day. That is your watch time, how long you're watching this, how easily it's for you to click through like all those different videos or posts or whatever, and also the engagement that you have. And based on that, it gives you the best thing that you want, right? And it's the same thing for like any sort of AI tool as well. So what exactly does this mean for us as designers? Before we jump into kind of trying to answer this, quite holistic question, um, one thing that we need to know as designers is what natural language is. Um, Natural language is pretty much the way that we kind of use chat nowadays, like a simple message behavior to have like one WhatsApp, for instance. This is like natural language. You ask something and someone answers you. So left and right, left and right. So it keeps the conversation going. That's pretty much it. So again, we've already gone through like every tech buzzword, like crypto, NFTs, blockchain, and now the latest is AI. And clients will always ask for the next big thing. So how we can kind of get more like understanding on this natural language and see how we can refine this type of work for design. And again, natural language is pretty much like chat interfaces. We can see like in every single tool, if you like take a look at them, they all look the same. It's like nothing new. So if you go to Gemini, if you go to OpenAI, to ChatGPT, if you go to Grok, they all have like a text input. You have like a microphone, have like a camera. You have like the live tool, that or how they call it. I don't remember in the ChatGPT, but I know that Gemini they do call live. That is just the kind of live mode that we can talk about anything that you want as you open the camera and then ask those things. And again, this is like a quite interesting article from like a friend of mine calls that he learns a little bit about this idea of human AI interaction versus human interaction, and the whole idea of natural language and what we can do to push this sort of experience that is like pretty much the main like this main standard for today, and how complicated we as humans we can be instead of like AI that is like more binary. That is, I have a question, you answer me, but it's just like it goes and there's like a follow-up. That is just how things go. So, but when you really think about when you're, like interacting with like WhatsApp, sending messages to your friend, or maybe there's like even a group chat or everything, it's not like I'm just gonna send a single message and wait for you to answer. Sometimes you send like a lot of follow-ups, a lot of memes, and it reacts, it understands intent. And with that, there's like more answers to it. So human language isn't made for precision. That's why we have poetry, why we have different ways of saying the same thing, and why we had to invent programming language in the first place. Machines need structure, definitions, and predictability. With this, we start to kind of enter a new age of user interface and how we build those like new designs. Because people tend to kind of talk about how AI is going to steal my job, or like we don't really need designers anymore because now there is AI. But technically, we're living in a moment in history of design that those tools, those AI tools, they actually need designers to build those tools. And we're seeing like this with like generative UI and a lot of things that come up in this class today, but this is just like one example. Imagine that you're trying to, choose a color. It is a lot simpler to just show up, a little pickup tool that you can like use a color picker and find this that color instead of saying, oh, can you make it a little bit more yellow or a little bit more pink? Quite too pinkish, maybe like a little bit more red, because it's just more precise because you have the user interface to guide you. So if you want to choose like colors while crafted interface is better than like a natural language. A color picker gives far more control and accuracy than trying to describe a shade to an AI. So natural language can just takes only to a certain point. And uh, good tools make it clear how they should be used, avoid the AI hype for the sake of the market. Understanding the technology and human behavior is the key to create a more user-centric interface. This is what we should strive for. This is like from by Wattenberger, that's another great designer and user researcher as well. So this is just to say that like not all the answers is like a chat bot, like this the famous way to sending message. So there's like a lot of intent, a lot of different things that make this kind of special in a way. And even when we send a prompt, we always need to kind of refine too much the prompt so we can get like a better answer instead of like using user interface to help us with this moment. Like for instance, just like an example, like who are you? Who should you respond? How should you not respond? What type of information do you I want? How should we start? Because I don't know if you guys have the same issue, but when like ChatGPT starts to talk to you in a way that is kind of weird, like too friendly, not too friendly, and then they start to implement like this memory feature to kind of, oh great, Victor doesn't like me to talk this way because it kind of feels weird. He doesn't like when I'm too objective. He likes more context. So all those things they are kind of evolving. But again, this is not meaning that this is the answer because sometimes we need like different types of tools and interfaces to help and guide us through like this exact moment. And then this is just taking accountability when it's like two people. And again, could be more, it could be like even more complicated. And you also have like different ways to have these paradigms. Is like another really interesting article from like Luke W that is he shows like the different ways we're treating those new AI tools and like the user interface of these AI tools and how we kind of see them kind of happening in real time. Like we send a message, we call tools. Like for instance, when we use like Gemini, there is the workspace feature, so we can link with Gmail, calendar, and everything. So it has more context within like information from your background. So there's like tool calls and then reasoning and then the model response, then more tool calls, then again another response. So when an AI model is on the other side of the conversation, loaded with reasoning traces and tool calls, chats stop being simple. It's not like a simple tool anymore. And it gets worse when chat is pushed into like a side panel and interface that was never meant for monologues. I think if you ever try to create like a document on Gemini or ChatGPT or like Claude, for instance, and when you have like this kind of split screen sort of experience where you have like the document on the right, or we're trying to build an app, for instance, on Claude, or also on Gemini and create like a new canvas on the right. And then there's like this kind of in like a live mode too in a way where I can keep chatting and seeing like things getting changed on the right side. So there's the application specific user interface that is exactly this document, anything that's being built on the left side. But then on the right side is a kind of traditional natural language that is a message that goes back and forth with the tool and you see like this thing happening on the left side. So things are getting more complicated. It used to be simpler, like it was just a chat. But to get better and evolve those answers, things are getting more complicated. And those companies, those tools, everything that's happening right now needs help from us designers to kind of figure out what is the best experience in coming up, in this uh, new waves of like updates and everything. So this is kind of one of the moments in the market that I'm always trying to talk about. That is what are trying to push for when you think about design and what we can strive for and in like a better user interface, better user experience. So this is like pretty much the next big step in shaping the future of this experience. And to help with that, we also have like another thing that is also kind of everyone's talking about, that is generative UI and how you use chats to create user interfaces instead of just opening Figma or any other app and doing by yourselves, right? And again, I just want to be kind of clear that generative UI is not a tool or a website that will replace you. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was this tool called, I think it was Galileo. I think it was one of the first iterations of like new products that has this idea of it's like ChatGPT, but you ask for something like, oh, can you create like a profile page for a Japanese inspired store for cool ceramics that features the history of maker and ceramics for sale, make the color light orange. And then it would generate for you like templates using exactly what you send. And also we have Cursor as well, like as another tool that's doing this. Lovable. A lot of them are doing kind of the same thing. But again, they use like a some sort of like the internet and everything to kind of learn from and kind of provide this. But when it's not like good answers or good examples because they don't have access for great examples. So again, it's more like a foundation design to kind of help you, guide you, but it's not really, something they're going to use in the end to deliver it and to launch something great. But things are changing in a way when you talk about workflows and how you're designing things, daily. Again, this is like something that always happened for us designers and how we use, like, for instance, Illustrator and Photoshop to create websites. Then, got outdated and there was a Sketch. And then Sketch 2 got outdated, and that's Figma. And now it's another thing. Just how, design evolves and are always evolving with design as well. I I I wanted to bring like Cursor, but also Claude does like a similar workflow that is how we're kind of approaching like those new ways to kind of design. Like this is from like a quite interesting article too from like Pierre Brumel, that is how he kind of documents his like new ways to explore design and how, again, this is something that you're gonna probably see to like new designers also trying those tools. But this specific comment was quite interesting. That was design systems are no longer static libraries; they are living frameworks that AI can read. This will come up like later on this class, but I think this is like a quite interesting like message just because with AI reading everything that we do, like those templates that they can create, and also like reading those, entire libraries, things such as creating design systems are feeling less like something that we'll do in the future in a way because it's already like an automated process. Things are getting more and more automated, and in the future probably is something that, again, because it doesn't really require us too much like creative output, it might be something that would probably, be outdated as well. And what I want to show is some different workflows that he documented as a way to kind of start designing that is a lot different from what we had in the past. When you think about UI and UX, like how we did start with design thinking, and then we started with wireframes, and then we started with like more high quality and high fidelity designs and prototyping, and then user testing and everything, right? Here we just have like a few different examples. Like for instance, right now I can have like a PRD or UX specs or flow descriptions. This is just text, just documents. Upload those documents and ask for like Claude or Cursor to like create an e-commerce product flow from these attached documents. Exactly what, again, just text based. And with this, just with like documentation, you could have like a design as an outcome. But also could be, instead of text, like documents could just be as simple as inspiration. So if you grab like a screenshot from something that you like, you can still ask for like, can you create something like this? And yes, you can. Or again, in the best case scenario here, where we kind of design this tool, like inside Figma, for instance, you have like the responsive design desktop and mobile, and you ask like, again, with the prompt to code, prototype, whatever you want, and have like a final prototype. So things are changing quite fast, and I think everyone here is feeling anxious. Like every day we need to kind of, know something new. Like now I need to study like almost every single day to kind of, keep the pace of things going. And like you open up like a LinkedIn or whatever, like there's like a new tool that now automates whatever. And everyone is just feeling too anxious about like how they can keep up with those updates and keep up with like those new tools and everything so they can, be relevant in the market. But this is just about workflows and not from like the real outcome when you think about quality. So generative UI is the system you design for the AI to utilize a contextual model for specific questions. It's less about patterns and more about responding to the moment. And this is something interesting from like the Nielsen Norman group that is like a big UX group too that is also leveraging a few things related to the generative AI that I think is kind of interesting just to put here. Um, in the future, generative UI will dynamically create customized user interfaces in real time. This shift will force an outcome-oriented design approach where designers prioritize user goals and define constraints for AI to operate within rather than design discrete interface elements. Trying to kind of just like create like a little overview of this is, we have our own algorithms in our social media apps, right? Like we open up Instagram, we open up TikTok, and everyone has like a different algorithm, like something that we like. And what I believe that will happen in the future, I think like already some apps does that, and that is what it kind of ties a little bit to when you think about like brand driven interfaces, like when you think about branding something too, is when it also can make this relationship with the company and also like you as personalization and customization. So it feels like to you in a way as well. So one movement that I'm seeing too is how like one app, and now I'm not talking about content like a video, like when you're scrolling on Instagram, but actually the modules, the things that lives in an app or in a website, it's different for every user. So I would have like a Uber that is different from you. The module that shows up first for me is different from you based on like the type of Uber that I ask or whatever it is. Who knows? Maybe like any delivery app or any other type of app that like is not like only content driven, but is more like about experiences. So that's like another thing that I can totally see happening in the future as well. It's just like how we start to design things based into more about like how AI is learning with us and showing like those modules in the right moment. And with that, I want to show to you like just a few different examples of AIs that are creating those modules to help make like information more digestible and more interesting for us. I don't know, again, if everyone remember, but when ChatGPT launched or Gemini launched, and you would ask for like, what is the weather today? It would just send like a text like, oh, it's 40 degrees, whatever it is. But now things are evolving and getting more interesting and also more contextual, like understanding exactly the type of intent that you want and you want to see. Like asking like, what is the weather today and what is the weather in San Francisco are two different things. So the module that will show up, they're different. You ask for today, so why would I send you for the entire week? But maybe if you ask for like for San Francisco, like, but not explicitly saying the day, maybe the intent is different, and it can show to you like a full user, like a UI module with like all the days, something more visual. So it's easier for you to digest and easier for you like to understand too, and in a way to be also just overall nicer. And we are seeing like this into like a lot of different places, such as asking for images or, when you're kind of linking with your calendars or like different tools as well. Again, when how we see like those tools kind of jumping in the chat, like the natural language that we saw previously. And one great example when we think about those big ones is like Perplexity, because Perplexity not only has the usual natural language, the usual chat, but also has like a lot of different modules that lists like almost framing the natural language with like the sources, but also like all the content and the imagery on the right. And sometimes they even create like templates, like pages. They feel like pages instead of just, the usual way that we see chat. And this like also another really cool project like that is coming up like in the future that I want to show you for you guys in a second about like Gemini, but just to kind of close up this whole like idea of like generative UI as well, interfaces that AI designs just for you right when you need them. Users overwhelmingly prefer these custom-made interfaces over regular websites 90% of the time. This is by Jacob Newson. And again, this is just based into like this conversation that we just had, like how those customizable interfaces are coming up and showing for people instead of just being one website that they code and show like to everyone, right? This is a Gemini project that they are currently developing. That is how they can start to show those user interfaces like totally customizable and generated for you. Again, they're not really a website, but they're almost like a little microsite inside the chat that we see. I'm gonna show like a video for you guys. Take a look at. So you'll ask to create like a Venn gallery with live context for each piece, and it would create and build in real time, almost like a little website, like a little tool for you to digest. But again, this is a almost like step one of what this could be in the future. But imagine if it could understand exactly the way that you like to read, watch, or consume information and how easy that would be. And like one little interesting thing that I also have here is how like the AI itself could understand from you and show to you that it's like learning, like how this little, even the loading area is like, and let me try to kind of find the best way for it to answer you like visually, not only text, not only content. This is like just another example that is to help you like plan a 3-day trip to Rome for the next summer. Instead of just being like a bullet list or a little doc, it actually builds to you like a little microsite again, like oh, day one, and there's like little cards that can show to you. Maybe like even when we're talking about ways to interact with is like more interactive instead of just asking or typing. So this is like the thing that when I'm talking about precision tools, it's not about just sending messages. It's like how we show those new capabilities of like user interface inside AI to make a better answer, to make a better result. Is another one that is also really nice that is um, how it can even make images, turning them into quizzes. Like they can even be more interactive. So it's not only an image, like we can turn this into something like totally brand new and how it can interact and digest and learn more. And it's just, I'm sorry, just like, can you guys, it's too loud? Can you guys hear like the music on that previous video? No? Okay, so I'll let it happen. And again, just to kind of close up on this too, from like the just little Gemini project. So Gemini designs and codes a fully customized interactive response for each prompt using Gemini's agentic coding capabilities. And this is probably one of the things that we'll do in the future for our new projects, AI related, and how we can think about user interfaces for this, which I think is kind of, really interesting. Honestly, I don't have the answers for a lot of those things, but this is just something that I to kind of bring up. And even when you're thinking about companies that are kind of coming up and the things that are creating and how they look like and how visually you can make them more interesting. Because when you think just about the content, it can be really boring. How we can do like, use this new moment as a way to create like those really um captivated like modules and how you're going to see this. And with this, a lot of companies are showing up and like appearing because they know this is happening. This is like another example, and this is more like designy in a way, like modernist and have like all those real, really nice looking modules and everything. But the idea is pretty much the same. This tool is called Variant AI, and the idea is pretty much the same. You ask for like a specific type of module, and it creates for you, but has like this kind of refined like look and feel, which is really nice. But it just allows you to like generate endless UI variations without prompts, view examples of generations features and pricing again, everything. So this is just to show like design a modern site for co-working space built for creative independent work. And it's like just an infinite scroll of it never stops designing new possibilities. So it's like never ending kind of consumption of like designs. But again, just like another way to see it as well. So, and another one that we're seeing right now is just Claude too. And I know like a lot of designers are kind of trying to use it as well as a way to kind of build those new workflows. So like with AI changing what styling looks like, creating has become easier. There's like often concrete prototype to react to almost immediately. This shift to design a conversation about how to make something to which version to expand on. I'm sure someone here already like just took a screenshot of like a module or interface they created and sent to like any AI tool, like, can you try a few options? So that's pretty much like how we're gonna see our workflow changing to it in a way. Um, with that, I just want to kind of again wrap up on the generative UI piece. This is what you're gonna probably see more and more in the future, which I'm quite interested in. It sounds fun, because I know like a lot of things are happening right now in the AI market is not as fun. And with that, this is more about like the technical part of it, right? The things we're seeing, the way that we execute design instead of how we think design too, in a way. So that's why, again, I'm not saying what is going to come next year, like this topic about value is what you're going to do, probably in your work, but it's just something to be mindful, which I think is good. Um, because I think one of the biggest problems with artificial intelligence today is it's almost like social media. It's just never ending. It's almost like a dopamine hit that you feel good about it, It validates you. It creates stuff for you, and you really don't really need to think about it too much. So in a way, it's almost like Zoom scrolling if you really think about it. So most AI interfaces today are optimized for one thing: volume. It's more output, less intention, and that's not neutral. It shapes perception. What I mean by that is we are getting bombarded, and even when we think about design as a whole, like with a lot of templates, a lot of modules, a lot of stuff. Do they look good? Do they work? It's just about volume. It's just about sending possibilities. It's not about like the final thing and how this actually, shapes perception. So when AI feels endless, instant, and effortless, users stop assigning value. What looks abundant starts to feel disposable. So designers need to understand this. Interface design is cultural distribution. What I mean by that is when we start to kind of, just create too much in a way using those tools without any sort of like thinking to it, is the same thing as, how like people create avatars using AI. It's pretty much like kind of similar thing instead of creating like, something well taught and that actually is empathetic with people as, with users to create like, something really good and interesting in the end. So interface design is cultural distribution. How we ship AI teaches people how to value it. I also want to just kind of bring up to this is AI is not something uh as when we think about artificial intelligence, it's not something that is truly bad in a way, but how it was brought to the world, it is. It was like not in a good way, It took apart so like everything that we thought was interesting and how it could make it in a way better than we do. So this is just one of the things that I also want to make a call for it. So we see it like in new tools that are also being created, like generative systems already operate at scale. What we design is not generation, it's exposure. Infinite scroll, no friction, no authorship, disposable output. And again, we can already see like a few things happening with this when we see like Meta launching a social media app called Vibes that is just AI, just, content that you scroll up and is just like a lot of garbage in a way. So AI interfaces shouldn't maximize output. They should shape perception. It's more about quality instead of quantity. And one thing that I probably need to think too as designers, and it's quite interesting too, because it will really depend on the company that we're doing this, or what is the purpose of everything that we're doing in a way like AI related. But this is just like some intents that we're probably gonna, be a next step to as we design for those interfaces. Um, because like the future of AI won't be defined by model quality, it will be defined by interfaces. Because every time they launch something, right? Like, oh, there's a new update for ChatGPT, or there's like a new update for whatever. And it's just faster. When they actually launch something more interface driven, people get excited. Like is when something real happens. Like when they launch it, uh, Nano Banana, for instance, from like Gemini, or like Claude launched like the new Opus that we can like build apps and people can interact, like the Canvas parts and how they can do more than just asking stuff. And like the quality, what was this, the output was actually good and interesting. People would want to interact with this, right? So will AI feel like a tool with intention or infinite content holes? Just like, just a overall question. But a few things are already seeing take shape with those tools are personalization is one of them. When it started, there was no personalization. Now there's memory, there's the way to talk to you and everything, the tone, right? Like how it can select like different voices and even how the way it talks to you, I think was like 11 Labs. That is one for more like focusing to voice that is doing this really well when it's about talking with people, almost like Her, the movie, which is kind of interesting. Transparency too, like where's this source is coming from? Is this data something that I can trust? The whole reasoning that you can see like behind the curtains in a way, the initiative to like, can it be proactive for me and actually deliver something interesting? Autonomy, that is the agentic piece that you're going to see today. Like, oh, let me design stuff for you in the background as you do your design, And risk appetite, that's just like how much can explore beyond the things that you asked, and then understanding subjective intention too. And with this, we will talk a little bit about value. We talk a little bit about generative UI, how everything started. And I want to talk about something silly in a way. It is quite silly, but um, it's something that I also do quite often at my job today because I've been working from like, I don't know, the past 2 or 3, I think more. I think the past 3 years, I've been working with product AI like for a while and like sometimes are from scratch, sometimes the big ones. So usually one thing that I also do is how we iterate with visuals. Um, again, it's quite silly, but it's something quite interesting for us when we think about the future of this as well and how we're designing those interfaces. How it started. In the initial iterations, the famous, Spark became the visual metaphor for products built on AI as a foundation or language model. The Spark emoji has connotations of magic, novelty, or something extraordinary. This aligns well with how AI is often marketed, offering unique or almost magical capabilities that traditional products lack. And in the beginning, right now things are changing. I'll show in a bit, but I think till today we can see like a lot of this Spark, being attached or being, related to AI in the tools that we use. Like there's like a little button with a Spark, we know that's AI. So Google Photos, Notion AI, Spotify AI, Miro AI, everything has a little Spark to it. But when you reduce Spark to be the AI capability of the tool, you're reducing the whole company too. Because a lot of new companies and a lot of new stuff that you guys probably going to do in the future could be like an AI startup or an AI project inside an agency or a AI capability inside your current product. You're kind of downgrading this whole thing into just like a little spark, but also creating like a fake sense of achievements in a way, but it's not really magic. So it feels kind of cheap if you really think about it. Like with continued use of the symbolism, sparkle icons will become synonymous of AI, the solution to representing such a complex concept with like a whimsical icon already associated with magic is, however, a double-edged blade, just what I just described in a bit. Um, and also another thing is we use like the Spark now is already like a meta. Like people understand they do the metaphor, like when you have like on any social media, pretty much like it's a heart, that's a metaphor for like a little home to go back to your home page, right? So also the metaphor. Again, metaphors can also be outdated with time. Like remember when the diskette was a metaphor for saving, but Gen Z has no idea what this is, so they needed like a new metaphor for saving because things get outdated is are also culturally attached in a way. So a lot of tools they thought, okay, cool, everyone has a spark, so I need to do something myself. I need to do something that is more, kind of related to my brand in a way. So AI can do it all. AI is not magic and shouldn't be presented as such. So how do we represent this? This is one example. There are more like on the internet, of course, and like new things are popping up. But Notion, like if I think this is already kind of old. I think it's more than a year. But when they updated the Notion AI to not be Spark and actually be something more relatable and also in a way more friendly and more interesting and also scalable, which I think is really interesting. This is from like the Notion team, so they just again put in quotes. We've positioned AI as magic, something mystical and unknowable, right down to the generic sparkle icon that's signaling AI tools across modern software. But when Notion was considering what its AI tools shouldn't look like long term, the company's creatives got right on the nose. And again, how they started to scale this sort of identity for their own AI tool. So this is just showing like a little bit of this progress and how we can even see in context with their their product. This is nothing more than like Clippy, just new in a way, we're kind of reviving it. And of course, there are like a lot of issues of attaching a persona to an AI because AI can hallucinate and say weird stuff and they gonna make like a link between the character, the personification, and the weird thing is, there is like again another pros and cons kind of thing where like, oh, does it make sense to make a branding for this AI tool for this, how it's going to look like to have like a personification so it feels, more relatable in a way. It feels, I wouldn't say human, but it feels more, you can kind of connect to it, but it can has like, this downside of saying weird stuff and like, oh, that guy said this in a way, even though it's like, just a robot. Or if it do something more, there's like no real personification to it, something more seamless, such as we see like with Siri, for instance. There is a name, of course it is, but there's no character to it. And the same kind of goes to like um those like tools for like Gemini as well. And again, this is one side of it, but some tools are taking like the Spark as really their branding. This is like one interesting new, like this is the full study of the Gemini um logo as a whole. So it's not only about the Spark, but actually about the whole brand guidelines for the animations, for the way that it shows up. I want to show like just a video from Buck that has like this really nice way to see how it kind of works with the software. So this is like just like a little video from Buck where they have like the new kind of whole view of the Gemini app and how I can see the animations and everything happening. So they really take a leap into like the Spark, but the Spark is not the main thing. We have like this kind of energy sort of look and feel to it where we kind of interact with like the intelligence and everything, which is kind of interesting. And of course, like all the Google colors and how they expand their icons and everything. So it's not only about the Spark itself, but how it kind of evolves into those like movements, which is really interesting to see. Like again, the evolution that used to be just a little spark. And with this, we can kind of close up a little bit in the AI conversation, talking a little bit about the era of curation. Because when we have too much, we need less. That is kind of the way that it goes. We kind of start to get like saturated of seeing the same thing. And in a way, there's like a whole term for this that people usually call enshittification of things because we start to see, AI tools everywhere and they all look the same, right? So with this, designers, we rely more and more in their capability of curating good ideas, curating good inspiration, and how to deliver those things. So this transition challenges the traditional valuation of creativity as the market begins to differentiate between the raw generation of content and the nuanced skill of curating and contextualizing AI-generated material. Again, just how we kind of see things being delivered on the internet today and not to be, again, feels like AI. Or not only when you talk about content, but also interfaces. Like, should every AI interface look the same? Because they do. Currently, they do. And this shift could like lead into new paradigms, intellectual property and artistic expression, where the emphasis moves from creation to the art of selection and presentation. So the ability to create, selecting, organizing, and presenting content in a way that adds value becomes equally critical. So curators are the creative directors of the digital world, akin to influencers and tastemakers of the Tumblr era of or visionaries like Virgil Abloh, who blend sparse elements to define cultural trends. I'm just saying this because one thing that I kind of believe in a way, again, I'm not saying that this is the truth and it should be like seen this way, but it's just how I kind of see a little bit about the future when I think about design as a whole. Not only about like the current state of market and how we're designing those interfaces, but I see us getting more and more journalists again, like doing a little bit of everything again, and how we can in a way direct more those things. I wouldn't say like is the same thing as being like creative director, but kind of is in a way because a lot of the process that we designers, used to kind of look for and do research, in the past, like, oh, how to make the best component ever in Figma. This is like one of the first things that is gonna be outdated quite soon. Like even how we do wireframes, like people are not gonna do wireframes anymore because a wireframe could be done in a prompt. So how we make sure things are, good or better, like great. So understanding those things, and this is like one of the things that we talk a lot about the other classes at this course, that is how to define what is, the craft, the greatness that we see about design when you talk about typography, white space, grids, and everything that kind of talks a little bit about the foundation of design. This will be more and more important with the future, because this is kind of would define how we see those interfaces getting shaped and getting better. So again, just how we're kind of preparing for the future. So the critical thinking, cultivating empathy, content synthesis, stay informed, be a tastemaker. So make sure to kind of, get references from, different places, not only from like LinkedIn, like see what is, like Claude doing with, showing the new designs to us, or what this CEO crazy dude here like is talking about, like how now his company is doing everything with AI. But learn from, architects, painters, fashion, every such, creative niche as a way to kind of evolve in a way your craft and the things that you perceive as great, in design, because this is kind of define kind of what we see in the future as a way to create those new modules, those new user interfaces. I don't think there's a way to kind of run from like AI, what you just saw, but there is a way to make AI that what it is today better. That I'm sure, I believe we as designers and people that actually cultivate empathy, look to do the better for like the people that use those tools, and about ourselves too, about our own ego in a way, how we can like do this. So just like when I talk about like curation. With that, we're going to talk a little bit about the second part of today's class, that is AR and VR spatial computing. It still has a little bit of AI on this section just because they're kind of merging, in a moment, but it's last, I promise. So XR and AI will merge into a single entity, representing the future direction of the internet in the upcoming years, impacting both design and technology. And to this day, I think like the movie was one of the best, and actually kind of nailed the idea of how we were gonna use artificial intelligence, how we see the characters, how we see Samantha, that is like the voice that talks with the guy and everything. If you didn't see the movie, I totally recommend. It's quite interesting. We in a certain project that I did, we used the movie as reference, so you have like an idea. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Vision Pro from Apple. And again, not saying that, oh, it's a great tool, like a great product. No, it's not about it. But the Apple Vision Pro is here, VR and AR technology is not like new. Apple's decision to prioritize productivity tools and work over entertainment initially was a bold move to capture, public's attention. I just wanted to kind of write this down because previously, when we have like all the VR devices, again, that was more like in the past, like 2 years ago, like MetaQuest and everything was more about watch movies, play video games instead of kind of using to work. And people got actually more excited once about work instead of kind of entertainment as a whole. And again, they're broken to pieces. Like everything's like now merged into like something new. I just want to show a little bit about the Vision OS too. I think it's quite interesting to see this, at us as designers and how we kind of design for those new, interfaces as well in a way, which is something that again we kind of need to think a little bit in the future. But not saying that it's right now, but something that'll come with. And how we're gonna see just like the interfaces, but also like 3D materials too, like and how I see shapes, how I see, objects and everything. And again, why it kind of worked like this new product, because it was I don't know if you guys remember when we launched, like everything was kind of going crazy about this Vision Pro, taking a taking account like the price that was kind of insane. But like in New York, people are using like this going, in the streets and everything. Felt quite weird, but sure. Um, I've always had this kind of passion for VR and AR, but it never, went really well. Never. And we're going to talk a little bit about why. And it's not only about the price, but it's about software and hardware. That's pretty much like about everything. Um, and before we jump into this, another thing that I want to kind of take like a point here is how Apple designed for Vision Pro that I thought was quite interesting. And why I think, again, it kind of worked. One of them was about familiarity. That is how familiar it feels from like current softwares and current products, the way that we interact with. And one of the things, again, they use in their own principles of spatial design is exactly about how familiar it is, but also human-centered, dimensional, and immersive and authentic. They have like a whole kind of um, documentation, a lot of information and content, articles, like a lot of really good stuff, design related, that talks about how they design to this, which I think is really interesting for us designers and how we envision the future for those interfaces as well. But I want to cover this like area of like being familiar. Like I have like some screenshots from their current products that we see on like desktop, for instance. Here we have like iMusic on desktop, and this is how it looks on the Vision Pro. So they are, familiar. They're still kind of the same way they behave. It's just like the surface that feels different, and of course, because in how we kind of see in like real life, right? So the Vision Pro framework stands on like foundation, similar in familiarity and authenticity. That is like the key word that we're gonna go back in a moment. So what would define the success of this device? Finding a key moment. This is like their whole conversation about the Vision Pro and VR as a whole is this idea of finding a key moment. Like, okay, great. It's familiar. People know how to use it because we have this, new design system in a way for Vision OS that is kind of similar from desktop, iPad, and iOS too. But why someone would buy a device of $4,000 instead of using their own devices, right? So what exactly something like this mean? So it's actually similar to everything we studied in the sorry, just for this one. This is just to show like one of the interesting pieces of the Vision OS and how they kind of frame like those interfaces. Like you put the device on your head, you can see like like a screen in front of you, but it takes shape depending on the context. Like getting something familiar, like the Photos app from iOS. This is how like the photos on iOS look like. And we're designing with the same framework to the Vision OS. So we still have, the same framework. It's something quite similar, but that's pretty much like the same thing. And that's where like they added a key moment. So if you actually navigate with like that big picture that is like the panoramic view, you can actually have this full immersive view that it actually feels, totally different. And some elements feel 3D, so it can almost kind of go inside your own picture. So this is kind of the key moment, kind of like the idea of like the interaction that actually makes a difference. So the current major issue that most VR and AR experiences for the Vision Pro are simply a risking of iOS to Vision OS. The absence of branded interfaces will determine the device's future. Like, let's take a look at TikTok. This is TikTok. So there is like, a infinite scroll or have like interactions, they have the navigation, and they launched like the app for Vision OS and how does it look like? It's just like a reskin. There's nothing new. So there's not like something really nice about it, about how it digests the information, about how it interact with this, like how we saw in the Photos app. So it's just like kind of doing the same thing, but it's in your face pretty much. So again, there's a deep connection between the visual system and the device, like iOS and iPhone, but that's just the surface. And here's just to show like a little bit how they made like the whole system as well. It's kind of again about the familiarity of the thing, so we can see like buttons, modules, and everything has the same look and feel. And if this is not enough to set a device apart from its predecessor, what exactly will? So let's take a look at just a few apps that actually use the device capabilities. This one is really nice. But again, now it could be a little bit outdated because they have the AirPods that kind of translates in real time to you. But uh, there's like this really cool app called Navi that shows to you like in real time the translation of whatever the person is saying in front of you, which I think is really interesting. So it kind of shows up with like the subtitles. This is how like the iOS version looks like. I think some people might have seen this on the internet or YouTube videos, like some. people traveling to Japan and they say something like in Portuguese or English and like whatever, man, like, can you find me this? And it would like say to the person in Japanese, and the person in Japanese would talk to the phone and, do the back and forth. And but the cool part of this is when you see like live using like the device in your face, you can actually see like this person here is I think it's like talking in German and it's getting translated to English. So this is using exactly the capability of the tool, like this, this finding, a moment, like a nice moment, like the special moment for this, which I think is really interesting. And in a certain way, it's using AI as well. So there's like a lot of those things that are kind of being integrated, I see, in the future. So technology is kind of this key moment. And that's why I think like to AR and VR never went that far because the technology also was not in its time as well. So this is like another one, quite interesting. That is Wispy World. That is like a beautifully crafted ornament for your desk. I know it sounds silly, and the home like it's like a little, cute, tiny forest spirit, and it's powered by AI too. So it's almost like a Tamagotchi, pretty much, or your friend Paul when we have like, the little triangle guy, but with that is smart. So it's like this cute little guy that is like on your table, always there with you. You can kind of feed this little tiny spirit. You can talk to it, and also because it has like, a full LLM to it, it kind of talks to you for real. It's not like just I'm hungry or whatever. Also, again, just like another little quite interesting way to use the technology as a way to, again, make entertainment and everything. And how I mentioned, this is just like an evolution of things from the past. We had Tagamagotchi back in the day. From iOS, we had like new tools so they can also take care of this, pets or something like this. So what they have in common, they're just like two universes merging with each other and something new in the design realm starting to form. And I also want to just show a little bit of how Working Co is kind of stepping up with like AR and VR experience because it's something that you're also doing and it's something that kind of comes up too. It's getting more frequent too now with artificial intelligence, like different companies they're asking to see like those experiences now with glasses getting, a major like a part in the market too. This like a an app that we did. We did like the website with an app, but also we did like this the VR experience that is called PGA. That is the it's pretty much like a golf tournament. So and how it can transform the golf experience. Um, this is just from like a Derek that is a partner at Working Co. And how he kind of sees like the Vision Pro like taking a step to it like to spatial computing. So spatial technology allows us to break free from the constraints of flat surfaces with immersive 3D opening up massive potential for interaction and creativity. Again, the project is still kind of we see like the leaderboard scores and everything, but it's really nice to see how we can take into account the 3D in features as a way to see like where the ball landed, how fast it was. You can actually be there close to the spot. Again, I hate golf. No idea how it works. It's kind of slow, but it's for you can imagine for other types of media, other types of content like such as other types of sports too, or even like Olympics one day with your glasses. I don't know. This sounds really fun and interesting in the future. So just a few of the highlights, like unprecedented immersion in golf, real-time action for at your fingertips, and the closest thing to being there and actually seeing them all. So but 80% of the app's functionality still relies on familiar features. So if you really see, like put a Vision Pro and see the app by yourself, a lot of the things is pretty much like a reskin of the iOS or the web version. Still feels familiar, still feels parts of the one system, the brand, PGA Tour. But we use again here is just like to take a look at like the leaderboards and everything, and how we see like the videos, the like the highlights, and the key moment is pretty much like how we can take a look at this 3D, see the map, use our fingers, see where the ball landed and everything. But again, things are changing faster than I expected. Like brand-driven interfaces, like the course. I'm not kidding when I mentioned that I need to update the course like every 2 months, maybe, because I had like Apple Vision Pro to be the main thing, but then there's like new glasses every month. They're doing like getting cheaper. People are buying more. People are like using more. Like the Meta one that they have like the little cameras like kind of everywhere, and it's the same goes for like AI too. So now they have like this Orion that is like the new, like their new glasses. Um, Again, this is still kind of expensive, still like not fully, integrated in the market, where they have like this little band that has like this whole crazy sort of technology to it that's called peripheral nervous system. It uses like this thing like in the and also the central nervous system as a way to kind of interact with things. So it feels your little, tendons here with your fingers to kind of navigate around. So use all your muscles of your body to kind of figure out how to use it. So, just like according to Meta, what we're trying to do with neural interfaces is to let you control the machine directly using the output of the peripheral nervous system. That is what I mentioned about, your hands, fingers, and everything. Specifically, the nerves outside the brain that animate your hand and finger muscles. Initially, EMG, you provide just one or two bits of control. We'll call it click, the equivalent of tapping one button. These are movements-based gestures like pinch and release of the thumb, and for finger that are easy to execute. We're already seeing also too like how Vision Pro use cameras, like at the bottom, and you can still use your hands. And it's kind of the same thing, but using a band, so they could kind of cut on prices too. So clicking your fingers together always just work without the need for a wake word, making like the first ubiquitous ultra low friction interaction for AR. Because even with cameras, if you put your hands in your pocket, you can't use it, but with the band, you kind of can. And this is just showing like how we can do it. This is like an early beta kind of hardware that they had in the past to show like just pinching. And again, that's just the first step. There's eventually progress to richer controls. In AR, you'll be like actually touch and move virtual UIs and objects. Because again, in the first part of the course, we talked about how we as designers were creating those new user interfaces, those new UI modules, elements, and everything in a context of, oh, how does it look like inside a chat right now? Or this tool that will generate modules, and how we designers are doing those things. Also, how we're thinking about like in the strategy of delivering, outputs and information, but also at the same time, taking this, putting the left, on the side, we have like another area to design for that is also taking shape when you think about the future. That is how we design for those interfaces too, which also is another interesting thing because it's so early stages, like there is some best practice, but it's not like fully, kind of documented and everything. It's still quite interesting. And this is just showing like the new interface from like Meta and how it kind of looks like. Again, there's like a lot of conversation about like transparency, how we see like the backgrounds, and if it still has a shadow and reflections and everything. And then, of course, there is the bridge with AI. One of the things that I like, for instance, that I see a lot of use cases that when they're trying to sell those products is like you open your fridge, you're using your glasses, and they're starting asking questions, and it's just answering you. I totally believe that uh, one of the next big product that might show up is something like what we do with ChatGPT and Gemini Live, that is open up a camera, show whatever, like a plant or something. Oh, my plant is dying. What should I do? But instead of like holding your phone like this, you're using like a pair of glasses and just asking in real time, like, why my plant is dying, and things are showing up like interface, not only sound. So like it's talking to you about something, and it's showing like little boxes here and there, like kind of showing also feedback, like, oh, this is the plant, why? And it needs water, you know. And here's just like using a scenario where like you have products or have ingredients on your fridge and you don't know what to do with them. And like here's like a matcha banana pineapple chia seed smoothie. So what's available on the market right now? This is like one of the most recent in a product iterations that is the Meta glasses that it has like with Oakley and also Ray-Ban. You can kind of, do some easy, not quite demanding software wise questions such as, hey man, how am I doing when you're kind of running or, cycling, play some music. But still, there's like an interface for that, so you can like check, your gallery, translations, and everything, which I think is quite interesting. And what's not working, right? This is also to show like there's like another side to it. Like there's like this whole center of like XR and VR studios that lives inside Meta. That is the whole. I don't know if you guys remember the metaverse. That was kind of weird too, like ugly. All the little characters, like no one use it, and there was like billions and billions of investment in this specific product. So um, this is just like a projection. So IDC pressed the XR device category to have grown 41% year over year to 14.5 million units shipped for 2025. But that growth has nothing to do with VR and mixed reality headsets because VR as like the big chunky thing, it's not going well, and I don't think it will so soon. The glasses and those like more simplified user interfaces are seeing from those companies is something that is, taking a leap instead of like the big bulky thing. And I don't think it's like this on the left that is doing, that well. I do think something more what again, Gemini will launch real soon a glasses. It's not like the Google glasses anymore, but I know it's something coming up probably this year. So they have like this project Aura that is pretty much the Android XR from them and are using Gemini, inside this. You're probably totally powered by Gemini. You're going to see something kind of close to what I just described, like talking with the Gemini live and delivering answers and like also how you're going to see this interface work within like the lens. Well, I think that's pretty much covers our two-part classes. Again, this is like a condensed version of the brand-driven interfaces. Even for this class, we still had like two other blocks, but I know that I didn't want to get like the whole 1 hour and a half for us like covering all the information. This is just like a little bit about a class that I teach that is not kind of like AI, driven, like how we're kind of navigating through like this AI-driven interface user interfaces, but we have like a whole section just about future of frameworks that is like talking more about the whole idea of creating experiences for user interfaces and also for like just digital design as a whole. And I wanted still to, give like 10 minutes if there are any questions or anything that you guys want to talk about. But thank you.
Victor, thank you very much. Really interesting, inspiring. The creative director part that you mentioned grabbed my attention. Really interesting perspective on how design role can evolve. Thank you very much. Really inspiring. We have, at least for now, one question from Luisa, which is, I'm curious how you're using AI in your day-to-day work on complex products. Most examples I see are things like, I made this screen prototype with Figma Make, but they are usually simple interfaces, no deep flows, and interfaces with plenty of existing references. I struggle to apply AI to more complex products. Can you give your perspective on that?
Absolutely. I think like first of all, it's so difficult to use AI on like big companies too, because there's whole like the um privacy issues as well. Like I cannot use Claude to prototype. I cannot use Claude for a lot of things because I cannot drop the things that I'm working currently on like the AI too. Usually, like if, I don't even know like how people are gonna do this, like those big companies. Instead, maybe they have like their own AI tool, and that's how I see they're gonna use this, or they have like a specific sort of agreement of with like an AI tool as well. But currently, for my workflow, the only thing that I use, uh, and I use like just Claude is to help me to refine content pretty much, and also to when depending on the project that I can to help me like think about possibilities of am I missing any other like direction? But currently not really. And I don't think like it's that usable currently for like us designers. Every time that I try to do myself, it's always broken. And also it takes too much time to reason and deliver like, good stuff to me. Sometimes I feel that I lose more time refining prompt than actually doing the design myself. But that's for today. I don't know in the future. I still use it for like those specific scenarios in my workflow.
Great. Thank you for sharing. We have a comment of Caio here, just like talking about how design education needs to change. Thank you, Caio, for believing that Aprender design is in the right direction. I think we have maybe another one. Pedro, maybe. Thanks for sharing. I often say AI is great, but X control over design. Yeah, maybe the same thing, almost the same thing. So do you have a set of tools and workflows that really gives you the control over designs, Figma, MCP, Cloud Code, Paper? Are you using something on, maybe Victor already addressed that? Do you have any other comment, Victor?
No, I just want to say that it's exactly it. I currently use Figma and Claude with the MCP server. There's like if you go into Figma, like the Figma blog, not the Figma tool, and look for Claude, you're probably going to see like the step by step to do this by yourself, so you can give it a try. That's my recommendation, to search for Claude to Figma to see how it works and if it makes sense maybe for you as a designer to give it a test. Maybe not, maybe yes, who knows? Give it a try, see yourself. But I think the only tip that I do is to not be anxious about like, oh, I'm losing something, because it's not that great.
Good. We have another one from Wallace. How do you work with XR, VR? How is it difficult and how do you shape the visuals for these technologies?
Well, it's the only time that I had opportunity to work with XR and VR was exactly for this project that I showed to you. And there's actually a lot of documentation inside the Apple, I think it's Apple.design, or I don't remember if the design or the dev part of it, but they have like a lot of documentation, and they actually have also a full um sort of iOS, not iOS, the Vision OS design system where we got like all the visuals to kind of do like the UI interface. And the second part of it was to actually hire people that know how to use Unity. Unity, the game dev tool that you can actually build like 3D stuff and kind of make also interfaces in a way to help us create 3D elements. We as designers, we had the ideas like, oh, imagine if it was a golf, court where I can spin around, take a look at like how we can apply the interfaces to this, and then we hire this 3D designer to also help us that knew how to use those tools. This is something that I do cover too in the course. That is, I have like a whole section about the future frameworks that is about just gaming softwares that I believe is something that I probably need to do too in the future. Like, how we see UI elements kind of fixing in the wall, fixing, like here and there, and how I use those 3D elements. That is something that people really like to interact with, because a lot of the interfaces will be more, three-dimensional in a way.
We have another one here from Emily. Thank you, Victor. I'm curious, what do you think about AI models being trained using previous work by artists and designers? As someone in the design space, is this being talked about? Is there any pressure on AI companies to give credit, compensate designers? Do you feel scared about this?
This is probably one of the trickiest parts of like, even when you as a designer are is using AI in your workflow, because again, it uses something to study and actually deliver like modules and interfaces to you. And again, like using this in a big company, for instance, they're gonna learn from like this, the client are doing and everything, the interface are currently building, so they can use and deliver this for other people in a way. So yes, this kind of concerns me a little bit. So that's why regulation is something that I hope for the future. And again, artists is even worse because they're, whole work. Designers, we have like kind of a more blank area to it, but still, that's in my opinion why I don't see agencies or big companies allowing AI to use in a daily basis, because that's another reason to like, if I do a work for a bank, like a big bank. I don't know, like Chase, for instance. And I drop my stuff in AI tool to kind of help me, do a prototype or do more tests. And then in the other, a few months later, I have like another contract and it's like another big bank. And when I ask to do like the same thing, it delivers something really close from what I did in the past because again, it knows me and know the stuff that I did, which could be quite, bad, not only legally, but for you as a designer, because everything starts to look the same, kind of knows and expects things how it kind of iterate with. So yes, I'm concerned. I don't know how it would be, to be honest with you. And the only thing that I can do and hope for is regulations because the AI companies, I don't see they wanting to compensate or give credits. I don't see something like this happening.
Yes, that's a complicated one. We have one interesting from Liz, which is my question is how to keep up with the advances of technology in the design area. I don't know, podcasts, YouTube, maybe magazines.
It depends on what I would say. Um, Again, learning, it's a big one, right? Like I think we as human beings are always kind of educating ourselves, like for instance, courses, right? Like here at Aprender Design, we can, learn with like new stuff and things that are from like people in the market that is, they are kind of updated. So it kind of makes sense to, like in a way, to just keep studying is one way to see it. Number two, it's getting the good like inspirational, exactly what I mean, like in the earlier in the course there was people that you really like and really care about, like design wise, like artists, painters, architects, product designers and everything, to kind of know what these people that you like they are doing too, in a way. Um, I wouldn't see anything on LinkedIn. That's a fact. I don't think like nothing really, updated come from people there that are just kind of trying to build a hype on something that might not work and not see every day. That's important. Try not to keep it every day or you're gonna go insane and get anxious. So keep studying, finding new courses to learn. Try to find people that you really like, that you think like, oh, I love this person's work. What this person do to actually, get more inspiration? Read books, man. I think this is another great area for inspiration. I have like a lot of design books that I still use to this day that I think is great. That I do show them like in the course too, like a few of the books that I have that kind of shaped me as a designer. And I think it's always kind of good to take a look in the past and not only in the present or the future, even for like new tools, if that makes sense.
I like that one of like not trying to do like study and to read everything because like otherwise maybe it's too much. So maybe trying to understand which trends are actually solid and not
Yeah,
choosing like everything to study, right?
wait a little bit, make it evolve for a time, or you're just gonna lose time. I don't think like a week or two is gonna make like a huge difference by learning something. You can take your time, relax, wait for this whatever thing that is coming up, take some shape, and then if you like it and you want it, you take a leap and study.
Vitor, thank you again.
Yeah.
Really inspiring class. Thanks everybody for your time. We are always happy to have like everybody in these moments, these open moments. So let's keep in touch. Thank you. Good night. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.